I'm just going to quickly show you some Excel best practices. Although there's nothing wrong with this data here, it's not an ideal layout for your data. Ideally, you want it where you've got the headers with no gaps, and then you have your rows with no gaps. So something like this, where you've got your headers, here are my segments here with the actual data relating to that here. It doesn't matter if you've got your gaps in data like this. It might be that I haven't sold any of this, so that's blank. That's okay, as long as this is well structured. When you have your subtotals like this, so we've got subtotal for that group there, subtotal for that group there, then those two subtotals added together, then the grand total. It's very hard to extract data or write formulas on this. I couldn't write a formula adding up all of this, or this, or this. This is just a small extract as well. Imagine if there were hundreds of rows of data in different segments. It would take you forever to actually analyse this data. It perhaps doesn't look as nice, but this is a better way to do it. And at the moment, this is just a well-structured set of data. It's not a table. I'm going to press Control-T to make it into a table. You get this create table. It's automatically recognised that as a data range because there are no gaps. And it's recognised that my table has headers. Just make sure either way. Sometimes you might not have headers and it's ticked it, so untick it if that's the case. Okay. Now I've got this table design tab come up whenever I'm in the table. If I click away, it's gone. If I click in it, it's there. It automatically formats your data. I normally remove that. Just click here and remove it. This looks similar to what I had before, apart from the fact it's automatically added filters. And I've got this blue tick mark in the bottom corner. Don't know if you can see it there, just in the bottom. That means if I were to add any data to this, let me just copy and paste that. That blue tick mark is now there. If I have another table or chart feeding off of this, that is going to be included in my new results. Otherwise, if you don't have it as a table and you just had that data feeding off this range here, you might have to go back and then extend the range to cover this, and then do that every time there's data added. You can also add it to columns as well. So for example, I could very quickly work out my subtotals. I could do equals sum ifs. Obviously I've got other videos that goes through this in more details. Sum this. And the criteria range is this. And my criteria is this. And then when I drag that down, I get this. And auto sum for my grand total, which is the same as over there. So this is a better way of doing it. And then if I add data to this, this is now updated, and that's now the total. And the same if I had a chart. If I just highlight those two columns there, insert, let's do a bar chart. Now our chart looks better there. And then if I were to add a new product there, let's put it under here, let's call it new product. And let's put it as 4,000, so it should be the highest. That now gets added to my chart, and it's now updated my table. I couldn't really do that with this data. I couldn't create a table, Control-T. It doesn't recognise any of this as a table range, and even if it did, I couldn't really include all my subtotals and totals in this, and these aren't really headers, so it wouldn't work. I'm just going to delete that. And I can insert a pivot table from this data. Insert pivot table. I'm going to paste it underneath so you can compare, but I would normally put it on a new worksheet. So I'm just going to tick all these just to add them. It automatically puts in alphabetical order. That's why these don't exactly look like this. So we've got our assemblies, and then these are in alphabetical order as well. And I can make it look similar to this original one here. I could say, just right click here, field settings, layout, don't repeat item labels. So untick repeat item labels. Then you get that. It looks a bit cleaner. So we've got these options now: pivot table, analyze, and design. They weren't there before. And again, if you click away, they disappear. So you can have your grand total and a subtotal. So this is giving the same information as before, but this is a better way of doing it. And if I go up here, I can't insert a pivot table from this. It wouldn't work. It doesn't recognise any of it as a range. And even if I selected this range, it's not going to work. So just consider this when you're setting up new data, because if you've already done your data like this, it's very hard to go back. You'd have to start from scratch, really. So if you do this in the beginning, you're going to make life easier for yourself. And I was just going to show you, if I were to add a new product here, copy, paste that, new product. I'm just going to write random numbers in here. So I can go to data and refresh all, or just refresh here, and it's there. And this all looks good. Another thing that I see people do, and actually I do it as well, I hide columns and rows. Just be careful, because you can then be working on data and not realising that there are hidden rows or columns. And also, if you were to send that information to somebody else, they might not realise that you've hidden columns or rows. Sometimes you're purposely hiding the data, but in that case, I would just save a new version of the report without that data. So if I just highlight these and hide them, it's not clear at all that there are hidden columns there. And if I were to hide this as well, I could quite easily just go in here and start deleting this. I could think, actually, let me just delete these here. I've then just deleted that set of data that I've got. I could then go here and think, actually, let's move that there and move that there. But then when I unhide them, this obviously then doesn't make sense, because that was my other product. I just undo, Control Z to undo all that. A better way is to highlight these, and on the data tab, group, and you've got this here. So if someone opens this file, or when you open this file, it's a bit more obvious that there's something going on. And the same for rows, just group those. It's very obvious there that I've got some hidden data. Obviously it's tempting to click on these so you can then see what's going on. And then you can just ungroup. Another thing I see people do is to merge and center. Here I might want that to look a bit more like a header, so I'm going to merge and center it. It looks like there's nothing wrong with it. This is a better way. Highlight this, under this alignment, center across selection. Gives you the same result, but I can still click in these cells. This is now 1. If I had a formula, say I was dragging it all the way down here, works for this. As soon as I hit that merge cell, I'm getting problems. I can't do that. I therefore then can't write a formula based on this data. So highlight the range first, then go to alignment and center across selection. I don't often write a lot of text, but if you do, rather than trying to work out how long you want it to be, you don't want it going off screen, maybe you just want it to cover half of your screen, you could then be copying and pasting. So if I just copy this whole thing, I think, oh, that's too long, let me just put this on a new line. I just go on here, cut this, Control X, and paste it here. Oh, it's still a bit too long. Let me just cut that bit out there. Now I've decided I want to add some text, so therefore now that's long. So now I've got to move this down, go over here, go up here, cut this, and I'm just gonna, it's going to take me forever. And if I keep changing this text, I'm just going to keep playing around with it. Very simple way, if you don't really know it. I've got my cursor in the first cell. I want my text to be displayed roughly around here. Go to Fill on your Home tab, Justify. Does it automatically for you. Or if I do, could have it like this. Fill, Justify. Sometimes I might want to add some notes to remind myself or something, or to let other people know. I don't always want to be adding lots of text here or maybe put an asterisk and then have some text or key somewhere else. It just looks messy. I like this clean data here. I don't want to have, say, or you can have notes, and then you can have it like this. It's a bit messy for me. I just want my clean data. So what you can do, I'm just going to copy this text, is in this cell here where I've got my formula, there is a function that text doesn't affect. That's the N function. So I can have my formula, it's going to give me the result, and then what I'm writing next in the N function isn't going to affect it. So I could say plus N, it's there, and in quotation marks write some text. My number hasn't changed. I could even do a formula based off that number, equals this multiplied by 10. Still works, but I've got some text up here. Obviously you need to know it's there to be looking, but you can make notes to yourself and know to look in case you did make any notes, or you could highlight the cells where you have made notes so you know to look up here. So I do sometimes do that. Rather than having all of this, I can delete all that now and delete the notes. This is my clean data, and I can just click up here and I've got my text up there. So text doesn't affect this N function. So me adding this text and the N function to this formula does nothing. So there are some quick tips for you. I hope you found that useful.